was surprised at the direction that the comments took. There were discussions that talked about the Civil War and what the reasons for the Civil War. Some said that the Civil War was fought because of slavery. That was the real reason. Others talked about well, if white people decided they were only going to buy white, then would they be called racist? So the direction went away from what I considered the true and valid issue, and that is if we have a portion of our community that is not performing well, that is not doing well, it is incumbent on the whole community to assist that portion. And the reason that I say that, it's kind of like this: if you've got a bad toe, and this toe is festering, and you decide to ignore it, at some point or another, they'll take the toe, the foot, as long as you keep ignoring it, and until you have only one leg left. And that's the same thing that can occur when you have a blighted community. I understand the sentiment, the idea that concentrating on focusing your efforts to patronize black businesses could be perceived as a racist move. But the reality is that when people go to black businesses, and while there's not a lot of fanfare about it, the truth is that they patronize their own, and it's not considered a racist motivation. By the same token, if we are talking about, if we are only talking about buying black as a result or in an attempt to separate from the dominant society, from the mainstream society, then perhaps you could say that there is some racism. I have a problem, actually, with the term racist being applied to black people. And this is the reason. Racism is an institutionalized phenomenon. If you have a dislike for someone and a dislike for a group of people, prejudice, bias, certainly could be applied. But when you have a dislike for someone and you use the state to legitimize via laws, via rules, regulations, and you have the force of those laws, rules, and regulations to perpetrate your dislike, then that gets to be racism. So I have a problem in applying that to black people.
First, good evening. First, let me say it's hard being an African-American business owner. It's hard being a business owner, period. And when you apply the subjective thought of racism to who do you do business with, we tend to do business with people that look like us, think like us, and the opportunity that we should do it. One of the challenges that I like to bring forward, and certainly Ms. Butler's going to speak to this, hope she will, that was segregated communities many years ago. Not many years ago, because I'm only 44 years old, I'm born in 1967. And some of y'all are a lot older than me, so you know what segregation is. That was the fact that you didn't have any other person to do business with, like other black folks. As you drive through Nicholson, you see the remnants of black-owned businesses, gas stations. I'm not going to speak about this, but I want you to talk a little bit about this, where you couldn't buy gas anywhere but that gas station in the black community. There were times when you couldn't go down to Woolworths downtown in Greenville and shop for your Easter trips. You had to buy somewhere else, you had to make it, and things of that nature. So that perspective of it being a racist to do business with only blacks, I don't see it that way. I can tell you from my business perspective, my person that does my uniform, my shirts, is a black-owned business. It's called Wick. The person who I buy my safety equipment, safety shoes, safety glasses, Mr. Benson, who owns defense and safety design. That's why I buy my safety equipment from the person who does my background checks for employment. When you go to your urine test and you have your background check determined if you're eligible to work. I have Rocky Watts down there off Washington Street who owns SRI. So I do business with African American business. The only people I don't do business with, and it's not simply because I don't want to, it's just that they're not available. I have to have a CPA for my tax purposes. My CPA happens to be white. When I find a black CPA, I will do business with a black CPA. I have to put my money in a bank somewhere so people can get paid. I don't know any large African American banks in Greenville personally with their check cash. But when there's a black bank in Greenville County, I will go get a bank account with them and do business with that bank. So I don't think it's necessarily racist from that standpoint to do that. I think we need to take a level of progression. We progress to the point where now we go spend our dollars in the white community as opposed to with our own people. There are a lot of black business owners. I know they're facing the same struggle I face. But that's why I buy my shirts. That's why I get my safety equipment from African American owned business. And that's why I have my security background check done through African American business. Because I might be the only business owner that really be willing to do business with them. I think it's a shame when you look at the minority businesses that own, let's talk about haircut products, for example. You guys go, Zelda sit down in the corner, she stays closed 3 days a week, simply because we like to go to Boom Booms and what's the other, all those Koreans. Y'all want to go get your nails done, get your nails did, and the Koreans and the Vietnamese do nails. But you got sisters who learn that trade, but they don't do nails just as good as the Vietnamese, or their products are a little better than the black on this. We got JR, who's a certified chemist, who owns Nairobi. We don't buy Nairobi products, so they won't put it on the shelves in the store. He has to have sales and go door to door and sell his product, an excellent product. And many beauticians are beginning to understand that. So to answer the question, no, I don't see it as being racist doing business with African Americans who are in business. And I hope Ms. Butler will talk a little bit about how we got to this point, because she does an excellent history story on. We didn't have an option in the 60s and the 50s and 40s. Now we have an option. But even though we have that option, we still should exercise doing business with those who look like us.
Second point there was, thank you. Let's give it. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Butler.
I don't want to say anything that's already been said, but from the beginning, when slavery came, we didn't have no choice. And we were the workers. We were told what to do. And we became skilled in every okay. Oh, I knew you. Okay. During slavery time, we were skilled. We built things, we produced things. They just walked around and watched us as we worked. Right after slavery, we became skilled workers. In Greenville, we had approximately 15 black-owned businesses downtown. So, in supporting the blacks, from the beginning, right after slavery, due to slavery, we supported. And then when Jim Crow came along, and we were separated into different communities, like Mr. Mitchell said, we became self-sufficient within our own communities. We were the seamsters, whatever. My grandfather did the milk and cow. We had our gardens. We supported, we were a neighborhood. We supported each other. But somehow or another, after we became kind of independent, we kind of started going separate ways. But I do not see that being racist, because the other races, they are not referred to as racist. They support each other. So why should we be labeled as racist because we support our own race?
I have
one comment, and I'm probably the youngest one up there because I'm a little bit younger, just mentioned. You know, I have a problem when they perceive us as being racist. When I grew up in a neighborhood where, you know, it was, you know, blacks and white on my street, and the blacks went to Butler and the whites went to South Side. And so, you know, it's not just the black community, I think, that creates that separateness. You know, they created it for us, and then so a lot of times, you know, we learn to, you know, survive in our black community because they created it. To me, they helped create that. So, but when we try to do it on our own, it's perceived, you know, something negative. You know, when we're just doing what, you know, was done all along.
Let's give them all a hand for their first round of comments. Thank you so much. The second phase we want to talk about is that one economist found that the Asian community, and you write this down, $1 circulates among local businesses, banks, and business professionals for up to 28 days before it is spent with outsiders. In the Asian community, $1 circulates within that community for 28 days before it leaves that community. In the Jewish community, $1 circulates for 19 days before it leaves that community. The African American community is gone within 6 hours. So to give you an idea, even with my name, what it would look like is that if someone is looking for employment, as opposed to going to a large staffing agency, it would probably be a good idea to contact Brother Mitchell. If that person is having some car trouble on their way to getting to their job, it would be a good idea, instead of going to Meineke, is to contact Brother Roy Miles. If Brother Miles needs to have his uniform dry cleaned, it would be best to go to an African American business to get that dry cleaned before we go to another community, because in the end result, it's going to help not only these men and women operate their businesses better, but it's also going to help non-American. Say amen, somebody. It's going to make sure that we have the resources that we need so that we can draw in more people that need our help, and then we'll be able to help them so that they can be able to make our community stronger. So that's the idea. In the Asian community, for 28 days. In the Jewish community, 19 days. In the African American community, 6 hours. And that's pretty much in the barber shop and the beauty salon is when that money stays in our community. Ms. Butler, did you want to have any ideas? You talk about those 15 businesses. Give us some ideas of what some of those businesses were that we once had here.
Okay. Let me say this. There's one community you did not include in that. That's the Chinese community.
Right.
In Chinatown, I'm here to let you know that in China, the money stays in their community. They do not support other organizations, other ethnic groups. They only support their own group. I couldn't help but think as to why. Now we know that other groups do support each other, but why do we as a race of people do not support our own? Sometimes, well, I found out that sometimes in our background, during slavery time, white men made us, you know, compete against each other and to doubt each other. One of the reasons that we do not support each other, we don't trust each other. We don't know our history. We don't have pride in our history to know that we are a very, our heritage background, that we are very rich and rare set of people, and that we deserve that respect. But one of the things is we don't trust. And a lot of people think that we're supposed to support black organizations just because they're black. We don't realize that we need to be responsible for the service that we are rendering. Sometimes black folk don't support black because of what we're doing. And then we'll charge higher because, and then let me tell you what some people, black folk, will do. They think that because you're black, you owe them something. That you're supposed to give them their service free. Now you're black and I'm black. They don't realize that there are bills to be paid, and but this is one reason they think that, if you back me up, you can. And from my experience, one time I had a fundraiser going on. Now, Ruth said me then, I said, you need support. But ain't the white folks support you? It's like, I think sometimes we have mentality that we as blacks, the whites are supposed to support us, and we are not to support us. And I found out also in the community, we will go to the Peace Center, we will go all the other places, we will not support the school center. We will, I don't know. It's, I'm wondering why.
Do you think, Ms. Butler, that it's because we're now 2 generations in the gap between those 15 businesses that were once downtown? That era ended roughly right around the mid-60s. So here we are 2 generations later where we have younger people who have not seen or heard about those businesses. So what I want you to let the young people know, what were some of those businesses that we...
Let me tell you one thing that is our problem. Have you ever heard of the crab mentality? The bunch of barrels. Crab mentality is you can put a bunch of crabs in a barrel. You will not have to put a top over it. Because once someone starts climbing up that wall, they will grab them down. I think it is none of jealousy and envy. They don't want anyone, we don't want anyone to outdo us. So we will stop another business or whatever. And if you like that, they will outdo another. So I'm not to support him because they will outdo me.
Let's give Ms. Butler a hand on that comment. Thank you.
Before we move on from that, I'd like to comment on it because I actually thought the Jewish community was a little bit higher than 19%. But I truly understand number of days. But I truly understand the Vietnamese community being 28 days. We all go to Dialogue and Publix, correct? Raise your hand, you go to Dialogue and Publix. I listen with a third ear, all kind of look with a third eye. Have you ever seen Vietnamese shopping at Butler? Anybody? You ever seen any Korean shopping at Butler? Won't see that. You know why? Because they have their own grocery stores. How many of y'all like to eat that fried Dwayne on Sunday? Come on, raise your hand. I see some of y'all like that before. Who owns fried Dwayne today? Filipinos. No, actually, the Vietnamese. Vietnamese? And Koreans. It's a mixed family. Y'all ever seen them eat that food? Think about it. Have you ever seen them eat it? They don't eat that food. They will not eat that food. They do not eat that. The fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, all that stuff they make, they don't eat that. They've learned a economic message that you can sell to communities of natural life, natural kind, and they'll come in droves. Y'all stand out there in a long line, wait 2 hours for that food. Go to that buffet, and it sure is good. We ate good today. They give you all the cholesterol you want, all the high blood pressure you want, and then go back in the back and eat their rice and their beans fries. And then we just happy that on their break to come out and serve you some more. When you think about the Vietnamese community, and I know these people very well, and they're great people. A lot of people say, well, I can't understand what they're saying. They speak very good English. They speak very good English when you get in a conversation with them. I happen to be going of a salon, and one has a nail salon next door to that salon. And there's about 10 of them, and all of them family members. All of them family members, what they're doing is they're working together, and they learn a trade. They make money in there doing your nails. Most of them, black women, they get the nails done, hair done, all that kind of stuff. But they need to have someone to do the nails done. And they save up enough money. And they say once that one person who's learning that trade, get their license, they do it the right way, they give it their license. We're going to open up another salon in Malden. We're going to open up another little salon in Simpsonville. And then you can go on Waycap Boulevard and open up another. And guess what? All converge into one house. And they live together until all can have resources to move out on. And then they save up enough money to send back home. They help others get their visas and things that they live here and they start businesses because they can learn how to feast, and all those people were not that kind or not that like. They know black folks like get their nails done. They know y'all like fried food. So y'all like fried food, we'll sell it to you. If y'all like to get your nails done, we'll make sure you get your nails done. And you better watch out for Koreans selling haircut products. Wait till they learn how to do black hair. I feel some of these beauty salons. I guarantee you know, black folks think old Koreans do hair much better. Okay. Those are my comments.
Yes. One more other thing I need to address is we need to train whatever profession, whatever business, we need to train a person so in case something happens. A lot of our businesses die because we become one person in charge of something and we don't pass the idea down, or we do not train someone else. So in case that something happened to you, that this business will continue. A lot of our businesses will die with that particular person.
One more quick thing, I had these comments about the Koreans and the haircut process, because I want to get in the hair care resale industry. So I call myself, I'm hop in the car, go down the Buford Highway. Anybody know what Buford Highway is in Atlanta? Down the Buford Highway. I'm going down into the Korean and buy the product wholesale. And I'm going to come back with a carload and I'm going to load my shelves up. I went in there and you realized not one person could sell a product to me, but they found out that I have a retail license to resell that product because they want to keep it in their own communities. Because they know, and they sell to their own community very cheap. Comes straight in from shipped in from Korea and various places. The hair that y'all doing, you hair, they ship it in. They come back and they sell it at a markup. Thought I could do the same thing. Now I could easily took my Korean friend down and she would bought all she wanted to and stock my shelves up. You know, you'll find something that's like that, but they're even willing to invest the time to do that. But they will not sell directly to anyone who's not of their kind, who's not a Korean, because they know what you're going to do. It's an easy market. It's an easy market. So you got to keep that in mind that when you go out on Lawrence Road, you go to the Korean food supply, you go to the Indian, East Indians, you go to that store out there and buy food. The other piece like you don't need this kind of food.
Two things we want to do before we get some comments from the audience. One comment, one Ms. Harrison commented on, it said, "Our Black Year is an eye-opening book that should be read by anyone interested in the nation's racial and economic divide. I agree with Anderson that it would be better if there were more black entrepreneurs. But I see many reasons why African Americans are attracted to careers with more job security, including civil service positions, staff, medical jobs, and academia. Being an entrepreneur is walking a tightrope without a safety net, as the owner of the Southside grocery store quickly discovered." So, Ms. Harrison, I want you to comment a little bit about what you thought about that particular comment.
I thought long and hard about this question and even asked some of my friends who I know own businesses. And I think the one thing we all said was fear. You know, in the black community, you know, the fear of failure, you know, and not being successful in whatever we decide to do. And the other thing is that, you know, we teach our kids, you know, go to school, you know, go to college, get a good job. We don't say open up a business, you know, go to school, you know, learn, you know, come out and open your own business up. You know, that's what we teach. Get a good job, you know, so that you'll have that security. You know, and I fall in this category. You know, I'm content, you know, at DSS, you know, but I've also worked my way up to the top of it, and I have a good position at DSS. You know, but there's a lot of others that I try to encourage to apply for positions so that, you know, they can move up. But they're content staying where they are because, you know, they don't have to deal with, you know, supervising people or managing people, you know, but, you know, so they're content staying where they are because, you know, they have a good, you know, I guess a decent salary for them. But to me, anytime I can make more money, it's better for me. And, you know, owning your own business, it is hard, you know, and it takes a lot of work, a lot of sleepless nights and, you know, worrying about, you know, is this going to make it, you know, and while I work at DSS full time, I also do therapy part time. And I've been doing that for 40 years, and I probably had 2 black people come to me for therapy. You know, and in the center where I do it at, it's a clinic. So, you know, you can pay $5 and come there, you know, but it's not supported by the black community. You know, we got a lot, I mean, you know, white people come all the time. You know, they come, and in the black, I think in the black community, you know, people look at if you need to go to see a therapist, you know, there's something wrong. But that's not what therapy is about. So sometimes I think that lack of knowledge too, in how to, you know, people don't come and support black businesses because they don't know the benefits sometimes they can get from those services. You know, but
There's a risk there.
There's a risk there. You know, in owning your own business, I mean, it is like a risk if you don't have, if you want to live a certain lifestyle, you know, because like being a therapist, if people don't show up, I don't get paid. You know, so that's why I keep my job at DSS. You know, because some people, you know, because you get to decide when you feel better, and so when you feel better, you don't come back. You know, and so I have to have that fear, and I think a lot of people that lack that fear, they don't go into their own business because there's that fear of fearfulness. And then if you're in like government jobs or civil service positions, you know, you are content. You know, you can make a decent living. You're not going to get rich. You know, you're not going to be able to leave your kids money. But you know, you can be content in that status.
Let's give her a hand and step out and start our own business. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, I taught school for 18 years. I had a very secure, my credit was top rate, I could buy anything. And then all of a sudden, I came along and started a Black History Museum. I had no experience in business. But in starting your own business, if you don't have a passion for it, and don't depend on folks trying to encourage you, because especially our race, they're good at telling you why you should do it. Why are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? And but one advantage of working under someone is you don't have to worry about the security dog. But now that I'm out, I enjoy what I do, and you don't have to sit and watch the clock. You accomplish whatever you want to. You can set your own goals, but when you work under someone, you watch that clock. Come when they say you come, you leave when you leave. There is a difference. I've had both sides, and there's advantage to both.
All right. Now, Bishop Zimmerman is going to give us the last comment before we open it up to the floor. The last comment of this review said, the few stores owned by blacks had a poor selection of substandard merchandise and very little fresh fruits and vegetables. Liquor stores predominate with only food on sale of the junk and snack variety. The Andersons discovered a black-owned grocery on the Chicago South Side, traditional home of the city's most of the city's African Americans, even located a black farmer who sold fresh produce on his downstate farm in Illinois. Unfortunately, the black grocer could not sustain his business due in large part to a lack of support by African Americans. Maggie Anderson relates a saying I've never heard of, but which explains this lack of support. White man's ice is cold. Bishop Zimmerman.
That was kind of a slap in the face when I read this white man's ice is colder. And it was a slap in the face because, as Mr. Mitchell said, you look at things with a third eye. In our community, everybody there has a little hustle on the side. I don't think anybody in this room can say, I don't know somebody who has a little hustle on the side. Home repair, doing hair and kitchen, you know, there's something that we do, and that speaks to an entrepreneurial spirit in our community. The problem, however, is legitimizing that into a business, getting the appropriate paperwork and getting the appropriate certifications and getting funding to start your business. and understanding that you have to pay the loan back, and all of those pieces, adhering to the rules, to the labor laws, and all of those things that have to do with legitimizing the business. We're not necessarily that skilled in getting to that point. Speaking to the issue of substandard merchandise, that's part of that process of the knowledge of doing the business. We may have a skill set to actually perform the business, but that's not, you don't operate in isolation. You have to know not only how to perform your skill, but how to operate your business in that environment. You have to know what influences are on your business, what laws affect your business, how to manage your money. You got to understand how to do all of those things in order to make for a successful business. So that means that much of your time is not focused on doing that thing that you love most, but it's focused on how to keep yourself alive and survive and navigate through the legal processes. One of those is getting suppliers who will supply you, as Mr. Mitchell said, at a price that allows you to make a profit and to stock your shelf. This does not happen readily in our community. We don't have access to those kind of resources. We don't have those supply lines. We don't have, as you mentioned, the Koreans go to their own manufacturers and pick up their products, and they sell them at a suppressed price. But they can sell it like that because they're selling in volume. And so they send it out to all of their people. They make a tremendous profit on it, and they sustain themselves. We don't have that kind of supply line. To get back to the thing, the white man's ice is colder. The other part of the problem is that if a company has 100 employees, they can afford to have a clean building, shiny fixtures, all the shelves stacked, all the products stacked on the shelves very neatly. They've taken all of them off and dusted them. If you have a black business with 1 or 2 employees in there and you've got to do everything, it's a little difficult to maintain that standard. So yeah, there is a difference in there.
And what we want to do this last round is, when Brother Mitchell can help lead this, is that these are all people that I would say openly I want to see succeed on a higher level. Let's give them a hand. Let's give them a hand. What I want them to comment on in terms of strategy is that they have been doing what they're doing fairly well for a while. But in order to get to that next level, they're going to need our support. And so what I want Brother Mitchell to start off with is that what challenges has he faced as an entrepreneur that he would like to see more community support, whether it be from the political front, from the religious community, or just the community as a whole. What is your greatest need that you need from the community?
Okay. Pastor Boyce, the question earlier was so intriguing. I'd like to just follow up with Dr. Zimmerman to share with us. I'd like to kind of quote Joe Madison here. He always states every morning that in America, blacks are culturally conditioned to believe that white is superior, black is inferior. The manifestation of that we are undervalued, underestimated, and marginalized. Even today, my mom had a ritual on Saturday mornings. I was excited to get up and go with her. We're going to go to the little stinking fish market on Pendleton Street to get them mothers and the little white road pig. And we're going to come back and we're going to stop at Cash and Carry. And that little wood floor with them bugs walking out. Now, you're talking about inferior product. We shop at Cash and Carry now. And then we're going to swing by the curb market, get them collard greens and them peas for Sunday morning. And that was a Saturday morning ritual. And I remember those things. I had distinct things I wanted to get. I want that for that fish market. It smells so bad. And we go in there and we get our fish. you go to cash carry, I take my little bottles and I run down that little conveyor and get my little, $15, $20. I say go for 4 wash bottle. And then she'll do a shop, and then we go to the curb market and get what we need. But that was not superior product. We will buy. I thought the Coopers. I remember Coopers from Butler. We go there and buy our food from Coopers. And that was not superior product. But even they will allow ourselves to still be marginalized in the supply chain. How many of y'all go to Black Bottle on 291? Come on now. Black Bottle, the Black Bottle on 291. Y'all know what I'm talking about. On Intersection 85, right down Hall Road. That's the Black Bottle. Because you can go to the same bottle on East North Street, and you're going to pay 15 to 20% less than you pay at Black Bottle for a inferior product. Because we allow ourselves to be marginalized. It's not necessarily a supply chain issue today. It's more of a fact that if you put fat back up there, black folk will not. You can't find fat back up on Bottle on East North Street or Verde, by 291 down there. So I said all that to say this is that we have to come to the standpoint of understanding that that supply chain that many African Americans can't get into the ample product because it's not hard to operate a business in a black community if you know how to do it. You don't believe me, as Mary Richardson, who ran a little store, right, a basement, and we lived there every day, or what have you. So we understood those things of how to have entrepreneurship in the black community. And her supply chain was well. She may have bought from the white business and bought back sold for a little markup. But we also went across the street at the red store because we thought what's her name? Miss Emma. We thought Miss Emma's cookies for 1 cent was better than Miss Richardson's cookies that she had in the bottom. So it's that mentality that we have after African American leading to your question. How can we better support one another as African Americans? Because I understood that Miss Richardson's cookies were just as good for 1 cent at Miss Emma's store or whatnot. We would run out there and tell them, because I got 1 cookie out of the jar I ate it before I paid for it. So you have to understand these things to know, as African Americans, we need your support. My business is not necessarily a retail business. It's a business for individuals to come work, get job opportunities. So I'm more of a service-oriented business. But when you get to individuals who need access to jobs, who need access to resources, who need access to counseling, who need access to just the general community service provider, you got to support those businesses. If you don't support them, then they will fail. Coopers didn't go out of business just because they wanted to. They went out of business because they got old. And they made enough money off y'all black folks on Spotsburg Street. That's why they went out of business, or what have you. So Cash Carry did the same thing. They just started making money, but they had an ample supply. So when a black business opens up, you have to support it with your resources and understand that their water and their ice is not colder than the white man's ice. It's the same product because our supply chains are better if you demand it. You can demand better product in Bottle, the black bottle, you get the same product and the same price if you demand it. But as long as you supply something marginalized,
Let's give Brother Mitchell a hand. Thank you for that. Ms. Harrison, what can we do? And Ms. Butler, what can we do to help you succeed?
One thing that concerns me is we don't read. We don't want to find out what is available. There are black businesses, there are things that's going on in your community that concern us as African Americans, but we don't make ourselves aware. We will not read newspapers. We will sit and hear things being announced, and I think it goes in one ear and it goes right back out. One day I was sitting in a audience and they were making some announcements about some events, and I talked to this lady after church. I said, "Are you going? What is that?" I said, "Oh no, I didn't hear that." So we have a tendency sometimes, if we're not interested in it, we just don't hear it. We will not try to find out what is going on in the greater community. And half of us don't care as long as they don't have to take our house, they take our car. We're satisfied with what we're doing, but we need, and you'll be amazing. The Agriculture Center has been here for 25 years. I got people down on the street from me do not know what we are doing. So I think it's once we find out that we are available, that we'll do. But we as a race of people, we need to get more concerned about what is out there for us, not just already. Now I'm not against going to the peace centers. It's fine. But if you're gonna go to the peace center, sit on the front row. And feel the speak else. Some of us have some functions. We need to support them as well. You know. And I would like to encourage everyone, if you know of someone that is running a business, encourage them. Encouragement goes a long way. And support them any way that you can.
Let's give Ms. Butler a hand for that comment. Thank you so much. Zach.
I always focus on kids. You know, as parents or even aunts, relatives, if you have the opportunity to influence a child, you know, in a positive way, do it. You know, encourage them not just to go to school, but to be business owners. You know, help them to see that they can own that business. You know, and expose them to activities like the Bill's Wheatley Center. You know, take them to events where they can see beyond, you know, their community. You know, so that they can see, you know, that they can either participate and be a part of the Bill's Wheatley, you know, singers or performers, or go to those businesses. Because if we don't take them to those businesses, you know, that they won't know to shop in those businesses. I support black businesses. My insurance, my doctors, medical dentists, they're all, you know, in the black community. And I also teach my son that. And I went to a black college, you know, and I've exposed him to that. You know, of course, we live in a community where the school is probably 2% black. You know, and so he doesn't get, in our community, he doesn't get a lot, you know, exposure. So I always take the opportunity when I can expose him, you know, to things going in the black community, to those things, so that he can get that same enjoyment out of it. And so, you know, work with your kids. You know, go to the schools. You know, they have functions at the school. You know, go to the PTA meetings, you know, with your kids. You know, encourage them. You know, talk to the teachers. If your kid makes a C, call that teacher. You know, see what you can do to help them, you know, improve their grade, you know, so that those opportunities for them can be out there. You know, because it starts at home. And so, you know, my parents encouraged me, you know, to continue to go to school. And whatever I wanted to do, they let me do it. And I'm sure my dad was in debt because of it. But he never once complained. He worked 2 jobs when I was in college, you know, so that when I got out, I didn't have to incur that debt, you know, and I, you know, made sure that my kid has a college fund, and I started it when he was born. And so he'll be able to go to school, even if he never gets a scholarship. I've made sure that I have in place, you know, so that he can have an opportunity. And if he gets scholarships, then he'll have that money to start his own business. And I always tell him that, you know, if you keep your grades up and get scholarships, then you'll have this money to start out on. You know, when you graduate college, you know, this will be your foundation to either start a business or do whatever you want. You know, put a down payment on a house or buy a house. You know, but we got to create those opportunities too for our kids and instill that, you know, don't just go to school and get good grades and go to college, you know, and find a job that you're content in. And even if they, like me at DSS, you know, while I'm content there, I've always made sure when opportunities came, I applied for them, you know, and just to stay at one level. And so, you know, encourage them to, you know, grow in whatever field they're in, and not just be content staying at the bottom just because, you know, they can make their payments on their bills.
Let's give Ms. Anderson a hand for those comments. Mr. Zimmerman is going to give the final comment on that. What we're going to do is make sure we have the contact information for all these persons on the panel, because I'm sure that we have other questions that we have for them. Even out tonight. Bishop Zimmerman.
I think if there is a story in this book, it is this: that not only do we as black people have entrepreneurial spirits, we have the ingenuity and the wherewithal to survive in difficult times. But more than that, we do know how to navigate when it suits our suits our purposes, know how to navigate whatever system it is. I think that one thing that touches me, and that's this, that perhaps we are not looking at a larger picture. And when I say looking at a larger picture, I mean this. When we make our buying decisions and make our decisions as to how we're going to spend our money or use our resources, like other people, we base it on whether or not we are pleased or displeased, like or dislike whoever the person is that's selling. And that's not something that I disagree with. But I do understand this, that when you put the numbers together, one thing that happens, if a community does not have sustainable businesses in their community, if they don't have similar values, if they don't have communication between the members of that community, the likelihood that community is going to survive goes downhill proportionate to the lack of communication that they have with one another. It's just a simple mathematical formula. Our thinking nowadays, because as much as we might not want to admit it, we are living in a global society. We are no longer competing with Henry across the street or Muriel down on the corner. We are competing with the Europeans, we're competing with the Asians, and if we don't start to make decisions that enhance our ability to generate money in our own communities, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a bigger problem than we got now. Brother Mitchell mentioned that we do know how to do it, but during this recession, more black businesses have failed. They failed at a higher rate than white businesses have failed. That's unacceptable. That is just unacceptable. And it's unacceptable on a couple of different levels. One, being able to get the second and third round of loans to continue a business. That doesn't happen typically in our community. It's on the level that we don't support our businesses. That is unacceptable. As Brother Mitchell said again, the Asians go to their businesses and their businesses alone. I went over to a Vietnamese restaurant over behind Bob Jones. They've got a restaurant, they've got a grocery store, the restaurant is going to the grocery store to get their food, and they're doing a tremendous business. I admit, because we have the barbershops and the beauty salons, salon services that are surviving. But we have a greater skill set than that, a much greater skill set than that. In this community, in Greenville, and when I say community, it's larger than our geographic location, larger than the neighborhood, because we have, and Ms. Anderson brought this out, we have a like-mindedness just because of our color, just because of our background, just because we have succeeded to whatever extent you might call success. If we are not supporting our own, as every other ethnicity is doing, we're failing not the business is failing, we're failing ourselves. So we just need to rethink how we're thinking about what we're doing. Caucasians might not like each other either, but they'll go over there and do business. Amen.
Let's give all our panel a hand. What we're going to do is transition for just a moment. Have the pen and paper ready. Ms. Nikita Harrison, phone number to reach her is 898-5810. Counseling for $5, you said? If they qualify? 898-5810. 5810. That second number for the counseling services is
It's 583.
583-1010. Deacons, write that down. 583-1010. Deacons, write that down. 583-1010. Let's give her a hand. Nikita Anderson, that's her name. Ms. Butler, if someone wants to reach you, best number to contact you? 232-9162. 232-9162. Youth leaders, write that down. There's some stuff they need to see over there. Researcher and writer. She can help you research your family history, young people. So youth leaders, make sure you write Ms. Butler's name and number down. 232-9162. Let's give Ms. Butler a hand. Thank you so much. If you didn't know Brother Mitchell's number, Brother Mitchell?
My office number is 235-6837. Although you see me on Sunday morning, you see me in the street, I run a business, and calling myself, don't ask for a job, don't work. Call my office. We just do it like other white folks now. I'll call it.
Thank you, brother.
Don't call me on the cell phone and ask me, can I feel like you give me a job? Call the office, and we got a process to do. 235-6837.
235. Let's give Brother Mitchell a hand. Thank you so much. Mrs. Zimmerman.
My number is 347-418-1075. I'll give you that again. 347-418-1075. If you feel long distance, you can call me at 864-360-9244.
Any comments or questions for our panel tonight before we close tonight? 583. Oh, the other one was 898-5810. That's the Pickens County Department of Social Services. 898-5810. Right. Any comments or questions, anything that's on your mind you want to say before we leave tonight? Did this help you tonight? Was it helpful? Yeah. Let's give them all a hand. They did a great job. We're going to do this again on November the 7th at 7 p.m. And we're looking forward to another great panel because I know we can make our community better. Any final comments, bro?
Just one closing comment, and I think, it kind of goes as deep what we talked about tonight, is that we have to do business with one another. You know, African Americans are people you like kind of in business. Do business with them. Because we have to understand that Reverend Peters is a seamstress. She should be turning work away because she knows when I got pants to be him. If I need my car fixed, a simple car, and what Miles will tell you what cars he fixed on, what cars he don't. But his car should be full of making members, getting that car fixed. You should have your insurance through Allstate with Babette Jones. You should have you with State Farm. You should have your insurance with James Owens. Just a couple of things that you must do in order to keep these businesses in place is do business with African American business. They out there. We just got to support.
All right. Any comments or questions tonight before we leave? Mrs. Pizzetti. Anyone else? Ms. Harry.
It was a good session for me too, because you have so many people that are doing this, black people doing this, and then you have other black people that won't go to their business because they're jealous, because they have this business, and first thing they holler, well, I'm not taking my business to him, or if they go there for a few minutes or go there some months or whatever by, then the next time they go, they ain't got the money, they expect that black man to let them have it on credit, and he might not let them have it or something else like that. Then they get all out of proportion. I ain't going back there, But it was good. It's a good discussion. Yeah.
And Ms. Cathy.
I just would like to comment on black businesses. When I was growing up in Michigan, we were a part of the Nation of Islam, and they taught us to have our own businesses. And everybody in that temple had their own business. My mother was a baker. And so I grew up watching black businesses, and it's still quite a few in my hometown of Saginaw, and it's still quite a few in Detroit when I lived there before I came here. So it's still kind of thriving up north. I don't know much about Greenville. I've only been here a couple of years, but it is happening. It is happening.
Well, what I like to say in closing tonight as we get ready to hit the presidential debate is that in 1993, my brother opened Most Wanted Fashions in Clinton, South Carolina, a clothing store my family still owns to this day. And he didn't just wake up one day at the age of 25 and say, I want to open a clothing store. He went as a traveling retail clothing salesman for 2 years and built up his clientele. And when we opened that store in Clinton, we're from Lawrence, it's only 8 miles away. For the first 2 years, when this business was very successful, people that we knew that used to shop with us when we first opened the store stopped spending money with us when they started seeing my brother buy more cars, started seeing the store expand, and started seeing the store improve. And every year we would give back to the community. We would have a community festival where we would attract 2,000 people, give a basketball tournament, give away things to the kids. We were giving back to the community, but the people in that community stopped spending money with us, and then a Korean store opened up selling clothes down the street from my brother's store. And some of those same people stopped spending money with us and started going to the Korean store. Now, 20 years later, my mother runs the store, and the majority of our clients come from Columbia, Rock Hill, Charlotte, Spartanburg, Atlanta to come to meet my mother by appointment, because nobody in that community, primarily Lawrence and Clinton, buys clothes from my parents and my brother's store. 20 years later, we still in business. Look at God. And so if you really, just to go back to, I want to make sure that we hear Ms. Butler when she said, if you're passionate about what you do, you won't let that negativity stop you. Because if my brother and my mother waited for everybody in Lawrence and Clinton to support their business for us to be open today, we would be closed. We'd be out of business. And so we had big dreams of franchising all across the upstate, going to Union. My brother had a lady in Seneca and a beauty salon, selling some of his clothes for him and doing all of that. But, when you face those challenges, Ms. Harris, that are very real, you have to rethink why you're really about doing it. So now for my mother, it's like a ministry. She wants to, people to feel good about themselves when they're dressing nice, going to church and going out to functions and things. It's not about just the money. Because Brother Mitchell will be able to tell you, you're not in business for yourself just about the money. You're in it because you love what you do. And you want to see it as a ministry that you're going to be able to give back something to your community. And that's what I believe our family has been about, and that's what I hope that we're about here tonight, is that we want to support each other because we want to see all of our people succeed and do better. All right, give yourself a hand for doing this, being here tonight. And Reverend Peterson is going to come and close out in prayer and give us some grace. And we're going to have refreshments in the fellowship hall so we can get you home by 9 o'clock to see our president debate with Mr. Ron. Let's give Reverend Peterson a hand to come. Let us stand.
Saturday is the last day for the register to vote. It's extremely important. I'm going to let Reverend Peterson take that. Register folk in your house. Even if they're no good, won't do anything, you can just get them to fill out that registration form. When it comes in the mail, throw them in the car, and tell them to go in there and push button to punch. It's very important to get folk. Saturday. They don't do nothing else this year. Get them registered to vote and give them the vote.
Let me just echo what David was saying. I went down there this morning, and it's very busy. But we need to make certain that, like you say, tell everybody that you know, and make sure, check back with them. Thing I would say, if you're going to fill it out and mail it, make certain that, first of all, mail it so that they'll get it by the 6th, which is Friday. But make sure that you put the voter registration address on there, because we had one to be returned. And we don't want to wait till the last minute. I would say at this point, I would take it down there. I would take it down there and have somebody to look at it and make certain that everything is right, so if there are any questions, they can take care of them now, because that deadline is set. And then there is a list of times that you could go and do your absentee voting for the people who are not able, for whatever reason, not going to be here. But we have no reason not to get out and vote, really. And one thing it really bothers me is we won't vote, but then we will complain. We will complain and we'll have ideas as to why they don't do this and that. And everything is they. And it's really time for us to start saying, what did I do or what could I do? You know, because everybody, if you can't do anything else, everybody can make certain that somebody you know, ask them if they're registered. If they're not, you got a couple of days to make sure that they are. If they are, then make sure they get to the polls. You know, make certain, don't assume that they're going to have a way to the poll. You know, make certain that they have a way to the poll. And then, we, of course, make certain that they know how to operate once they get there. Because really, trust me when I tell you, they have all kind of machines in place right now to hinder us from being able to vote. I mean, don't take it for granted. You know, just because times have changed, we say times have changed, the mentality has not changed. You can tell that. I mean, really, those of us that were out there knew what was going on back when you had to really just almost fight to get the, you know, it's back almost to that way. It's just more organized now. You know, that's what the voter ID is all about. That's exactly what it's all about. And everything else. And I'm going to close, but when I was sitting out there the other day, and this white man drove up, and I heard him ask somebody where the voter registration office was. And I almost just turned right around, and I thought I confessed. I thought, well, I don't know if I want to tell him because I don't know who. I don't know who he's going to vote for. But then he pulled up, so the Lord convicted me right there. He pulled up right beside me. And so I did roll my window down because I heard. And he asked me, and I told him what I thought. So I thought to myself, well, if he asked me, then apparently he, you know. But at any rate, it's a serious, we're laughing, but it's a very serious matter. You know, really. You think you have in your heart now, you let Mitt Romney get in. That's right. You think you got job stability and all of that now. Let him get in. You know. Won't be anybody to complain about. Let us bow our heads. Father, we bless you right now for being such an awesome God. We just thank you, Lord God, for all that you've already done. We thank you, Lord, for being our way maker, our provider, our very present heaven. Lord, we come in Jesus' name, who is the Christ. Lord, we just bless you right now, Lord, for allowing us to gather here tonight. We thank you for those who come out to inform us and to give us their insight on the different things that we need. Lord, we know